Hey, how you doing? I thought I'd have a bit of a chat today about age and surfboard technology, more particularly PU surfboards and EPS epoxy surfboards. So I've been surfing over 50 years. I obviously started out surfing on PU boards and have ridden them up until relatively recently. I'm a recreational surfer. I probably surf on average once or twice a week across the year. Obviously in summer, like now, I'm surfing 3 to 5 times a week because it's summer, because of daylight saving, and also because I'm on holiday. But in winter, I'm surfing, once or twice a week. Sometimes I'll go 2, 3, 4, 5, even 6 weeks without a surf, and then I'll be back in the water again. So I guess I'm averaging about 1 to 2 surfs. I surf around my job. I don't make my job fit around my surfing. I don't work in the surf industry, so that really qualifies me as a recreational surfer. And I would say maybe, quite a long time ago, I might have considered myself an early advanced surfer, but I think I fit kind of squarely in the intermediate now. And why is that? Well, obviously it's because of my age. I'm losing fitness, I'm losing speed, I'm losing flexibility, and I'm also losing strength. So that's why, in fact, I have come to think a lot more carefully about EPS epoxy boards. So one of the things that sort of got me thinking about it originally was a friend of mine had a Hypto Crypto Hayden Shapes surfboard. I think it was his Vulture Flex. He let me have a ride on it when I was out in the surf with him one day. And I didn't like that board at all. Floated around like a cork, it paddled like a cork. When I duck dived with it, I got washed around. It put me off EPS epoxy boards for years. But obviously, because of my age and because I want to be able to have good paddle power, catch waves, so I started to think more carefully about EPS epoxy. So the first thing that I did, which was about 4 or 5 years ago, I went out and got a Firewire Rob Machado Sea. It was a 510, 37.1 litres, and I could catch waves easily on that board. I could kind of surf it the way that I wanted to surf it, or the way that I wanted to surf, and yet I didn't really like it that much in the end and sold it because I wanted to be able to go vertical on it, and it wasn't really designed shape-wise to adapt to that kind of surfing. However, it was Helium technology, which is their EPS foam with Polonia and balsa wood from nose to tail around the rails. And so it had that lightness that EPS is renowned for. It had that buoyancy, which EPS is renowned for. And obviously they have their own approach to pop, to flexibility, and all of those other characteristics that shapers are playing with to try and find the best blend of technology to help surfers surf in the way that they want to surf. The second board that I got, which was a 6'2" black Vulture, a Chile surfboard, and that was once again an EPS epoxy board. It was their twin tech technology. So like the Seaside, it didn't have a stringer. It had an EPS foam core, but they used carbon strips on the bottom and on the deck to play with that twist, that flexibility, that torsion, to give it the characteristics that they wanted to give it, apart from the lightness that you get from the EPS. And one of the things obviously that's key with EPS, particularly if they're stringerless, is how to get strength into the board, which I think Chile kind of failed with a bit because I creased that board. In comparison, the Seaside felt like a rock. It didn't weigh like a rock, but it felt like it was super strong. And one of the things that EPS is well known for is durability. But I went out on, a 4 to 5 foot day at Outside Indicators at Raglan, which is for those of you who don't know it, it's a very long point break, left-hander. It can be quite a powerful wave. On this day it wasn't particularly powerful, but I still creased that board. However, I really liked that board a lot. It was super fast. It was faster than the Seaside, and it responded really well. It did the things I wanted it to do, but I was looking to EPS epoxy boards primarily for fun performance in smaller waves, and I found that the length that I had on that Chile, which was 6.2, the volume was 36, so I had that lightness, I had that buoyancy, I had an incredible amount of speed. I think it's the fastest board I ever had, but I just found at that length at 6.2, it was too long for small waves, whereas the Seaside at 5'10" was, for me, too short, because my other boards, like this one here, the Paizel Shadow XL, is 6'2", and so I like boards that are slightly longer. I don't like to ride boards in that 5'6", 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 range. I like a little bit of length. Once again, I think it helps me with my age and my paddling and getting on waves. So in the end, even though I liked the Chile Black Vulture a lot, I decided to sell it, and I got this board here, which is the Lost Round-Nosed Fish. It's EPS Epoxy. It comes from Tommy Dalton, and he uses zero-gravity foam in his boards, the ones that he uses for his own technology, which is called Coreflex, and he uses zero-gravity foam, and he buries carbon rods in the board to give it the strength to overcome the lack of a stringer. And he does use carbon in it though, but it's really these carbon rods and where he is trying to get the strength from. And so far, this board has been really good for me. So it's 6 foot, it is 37 litres in volume, and I'm really having a lot of fun on this board. I'm enjoying it a lot. I surf it in sort of 4 foot waves as a thruster with, these are AM2s, but normally I ride it as a 2+1 with the Futures 2+1s, or I ride it in really small waves with the Almeric keel fins, and those give me the stability that I'm looking for, because I don't really like that twin fin slide. So what I've found with EPS technology is I'm getting that lightness, I'm getting that speed, and I'm catching waves with a board that's short, and this board is 6 foot in comparison to the 6'2" Chile Black Vulture 2 that I had, and the 5'10" Seaside that I had that I just found was too short. So this is my latest experiment with EPS Epoxy. I'm liking it a lot, but one of the things that I have come to realise, and in fact it's relatively well known with boards that are EPS anyway, is that they go really well in small waves, but they don't respond particularly well in waves that are more powerful, larger. And I have found that particularly when I've taken this board out instead of this board, or this board, which is the PU Paizel 6'2" Shadow XL, taken this board out instead of this board, and that's the conundrum that you're faced with when you're swapping boards like I do between EPS and PU, and also between dimensions and shape, is which board is going to suit the conditions that are actually out there. And sometimes you get it wrong, or at least I get it wrong anyway. So I look at the conditions, I think I'm going to take this board out, and I do, and I realise I should have this board. Or I'm out there and I realise that I'm on this EPS epoxy board and I really should be on the PU board. And the key thing for me that I found, particularly when riding this EPS epoxy board, and my other ones to be honest, in waves that, even if they're only 4 foot, but if they're jacking up or if they've got power in them, the problem is EPS epoxy boards float. And I find that when you're going into the wave, and particularly when the wave's jacking up, you're tending to float with the peak. And consequently, you're taking off late. And when you're taking off late on a punchy wave, you're essentially free falling. And although I am quite good at handling free falls and late drops, I'd sooner not be doing that. And EPS epoxy boards, for me personally, don't respond well in waves where they're jacking up, or they're bigger, or they've got, you know, real juice to them. I would much rather be on a PU board, because I can push into the wave. It's got more weight. I can push into the wave, and so I find out that I'm not stuck in the lip, floating over with the lip, but I'm actually able to push into the wave and get going, even in those radical late spots, and actually get my rail engaged more quickly and easily, and handle that takeoff and get onto the wave. Whereas with an EPS epoxy, I find I'm just sort of floating in the air. Even if I make the drop, I hit the bottom, I'm trying to get the turn in, and it's just all a little bit too late. Sometimes I make the wave and sometimes I don't. So I guess this whole conversation about PU versus EPS epoxy is not a conversation for me. Really, I'm EPS epoxy and PU, and my big quandary is trying to figure out which board I should have for the conditions that are out there, so that when I'm out there, I don't realise that I've made a mistake and I really need to go in and change my board, or I just have to put up with the board that I've got, even though it's not most suited to the conditions. So, you know, these are the things that I'm playing with now. I've got another board coming. It's a PU board, but for me, I would say I'm really into both kinds of boards. EPS epoxy for those more fun summer waves, smaller, PU for when I'm into gruntier waves and I really need to engage my rail. I know that in the future, one of the things I'm going to be looking at is a mid-length board. I'm trying to push that out as far as I can though. I do have a 7.3 mini mal, but I ride it almost not at all now. In fact, I'm thinking of selling it. And the main reason is, I know I would catch a lot more waves if I was riding a mid-length and small surf, but I want the exercise that a short board gives me, and so I use the short board EPS epoxies like this Lost RNF 96 at the moment to help me catch waves, to have fun, allow me to maneuver as I want to, and I'm still getting the paddling exercise that I need to try and stay surf fit. So if you've got any comments, I'd love to hear what you think about the different types of boards that you ride, the technologies that you're testing, experimenting with, or have proven to be really good for you. Leave them in the comments, and hopefully I'll hear from you and respond to you soon. Thanks.